Hello and welcome to the Repurpose Your Purpose podcast. My name is Aurora Menegallo, and this is a special episode because a past client is joining me. Hi, Chelsea.
Hi, Aurora.
For all of you listening, this is going to be a conversation about growth and expansion. I'm going to ask Chelsea a bunch of questions about her journey and what it's like when you embark from a transition to growing to new experiences. So, should we start?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, Chelsea, we haven't caught up actually in a while, but before I ask you all my questions, thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
And will you
Thank you
share
for
with us?
having me.
I love talking to you. And for everybody here who doesn't know you, will you share a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I design and manage programs that create real impact. So I work with nonprofits, government agencies, corporate agencies to build initiatives that are rooted in the communities that we serve. So it's everything from assessments, design, and implementation to delivering in-person services. And I think at the core of my work, it's all about turning big goals into actionable strategies that create real change.
That's wonderful. I know you make a really big difference with what you do. So we worked together a couple. I just want to start with that because
Yeah.
I actually I don't know if I asked you this ever. So I'm also personally curious. We worked together twice at the beginning of your career and then after years where you really have grown and changed already, right? And I'm wondering what brought you to repurpose your purpose and if there was some differences in these two stages as we work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, what brought me? Well, first, I have to give a shout out to our friend Miriam because really Miriam was a mentor and helped me during that time when I was entering the workforce and kind of navigating working in an organization, having a career, building a career. And when I knew I wanted to transition from where I was, Miriam suggested that we talk. And um, I think the difference, because we've done it twice, that first time that we met, I was so unsure of my next steps. I was transitioning from what was like a dream job, a goal of mine. Which I mean, how amazing to accomplish that so young. But I was ready to transition. I was feeling a little bit burnt out. I think, like most young people who are entering the workforce, we go like 150% for it was years at that point, and I was just ready to do something different. And so when we got together, your guidance and your feedback to me on how I could transition the skills that I already had to other positions, to other careers, like having those conversations opened my mind in a lot of ways. And especially as for me, I'm the first person in my family to go to a 4-year school, graduate, go out to a career, and so I didn't necessarily have that information from my family. You offered me that and some clarity and some comfort. I mean, I think that's what I needed to at that time. Like, I'm leaving my dream job. What am I doing? And I just remember you were always like, there's so much more out there. You'll be able to, to do so much more. This isn't it. And so that was the first time that we got together. And yeah, that for me was I just say comforting because you helped me understand my potential and already what I had done. What I think one of your first assignments was creating a list of achievements. And wow, that was, you don't really think about it. I do this now too, how much you're doing day to day. week to week, month to month. But writing those things down is, especially as a young person and like sitting and looking at that was, it instilled confidence in me that really, really helped me through that transition period. Yeah.
And I think it's so important, especially when we are having doubts. It's so normal in transitions, or we start doubting ourselves, and then we forget all the things we already achieved or know how to do, or all the
Yeah.
qualities we bring and skills, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
What about
absolutely.
when we worked again together? I'm curious how that was
Yeah.
similar or different. I don't know. How did it feel to you?
Yeah. Um, by the time we met again for our second time, which was last year, I had, like you said, there was so much more out there. And I was shifting from, I had been a stepmom for a few years, I had gotten married, and then I was pregnant and I was shifting this mindset. It's something I think about quite often, and especially as being a working parent, is, my ambition impacts my family, right? Because we can't give 100% everywhere. So I wanted to connect with you because I was kind of at this feeling of crossroads of I still want to achieve these goals. I still have these dreams for, me and my family, and this is how I want to get there. But at the time, it's like 1,000 puzzle piece dumped on the table, and I was just like, I just need help sorting the pieces, and putting them together. And so when we met that second time, it was like I had experience. I had already started my consulting business. I was working and doing the things that I had been dreaming about doing, and now I was about to have a teenager and a newborn, and I was like, what does that look like, And I it was just so helpful at that time too. I think those are two really huge transitions in my life. Obviously, giving birth is a huge transition, but also early in my career when I realized there's more to just what I've studied or what I've been doing. And so when we came together last year and you helped me sort those puzzle pieces, at the end of the day, it's like, well, what fulfills my values? What makes sure that I come home to my family, not stressed out, not like worried about 50 things from work. I really wanted to be at that place. And I'll never forget it. We were having a conversation once, and I think I was just talking about this and the stress of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back to work, and I'm really nervous about balancing everything, juggling everything. And you said, it can be whatever you want it to be. And for some reason, it just like cracked something open in my mind. And I was like, you are so right. And you were like, do you know other like working moms? And I was like, yeah, and they're badass and they like are doing it, doing it their way. And so that I know it sounds kind of simple and silly, but like hearing that and reaffirming again, it's like, how are my values fulfilled in this? It's like I want to continue doing the work that has a positive impact on the communities that I work with. That's my number one goal because that positive impact is how I fulfill, my daily life. And then I get to come home and not be stressed about a social media post, or like from the jobs that I've had before, and yeah, that conversation really changed the way that I approached this.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think you know, being a parent can really be an initiatory moment. And what I've seen is that sometimes it brings new powers. It's like you find you have so much more power than you thought before, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So I'm curious. over the years, as you transition, grew your career, found all these new powers, that you have, what are some things that you found really helpful or surprising in growing?
Yeah. Both times that we met, but especially the first time, we talked about how growth in a career or in your life isn't always about moving up.
Mm,
It can, and for me and our work together, it's always been about going deeper. Like, that was one of the initial things we talked about when we first met when I was younger was what are your values? Why do you want to do this kind of work? What makes you happy about your job and your career? Like, let's transfer those things into what the next step is. And that doesn't always mean, moving up and up and up and up. When I was younger, I just thought it was linear, and you just put your head down and you do it. You work as hard as you can, and obviously that led to being exhausted and not feeling fulfilled. And so that was a surprise to me early on. Is um, your, I think. I've had conversations with others, and in my experience too, especially when I was younger, I tied my worth to my title, or what I was doing specifically as like the actual job. And as I get older, I could care less. I mean, I love being a background person. Like I love facilitating a goal and lofty goals and like goals that are going to change the world and change communities. I love being the person in the background helping make those happen. And I'm so much happier. So I think that was really surprising to me when we were first talking about that when I was younger. I think you're like, oh, really? Like, but I want to be a manager. I want to be, and then once you start thinking about, no, like how are my values fulfilled in this and going towards those goals and those things, that moves you up in a totally different way. Um, and things come to you in a positive way, I would say. And the second time we worked together, we talked about that a lot. Because I had had experiences in my career where I felt like I was masking a lot, or feeling like I have to prove myself because I, look young, or it doesn't seem like I would have the experience I do, or, whatever it may be. And we talked about just being genuine and being able to like let that go and the weight that is released. And of course, I have to say, if you're in a safe space to do that, which I feel like I've been able to navigate. And again, it's like if I move deeper into my values, I am in those safe spaces. So I'm able to just be myself, confidently. And again, it's like the right people come to you, the right opportunities come to you because they want to work with you, who you are as a real person. Um, and so I would say those were probably the two most surprising things for me when we worked together.
Oh, that's so great. I just want to go a little bit deeper on a couple of the things you said. One is that you start to attract, certain kind of people or opportunities
Mhm.
come to you. And I think one way that I refer to that is like attracts like. So when we embody our values, the people who share those values will be looking, right,
Yeah.
for the same sharing. So something it that I think it's very like when we're scared, it's hard for us to do. We get into this survival, we want to belong,
Mhm.
so try to adjust. But paradoxically, then what happens is that we're not recognized for the things that we really, that we want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And so the other thing that struck me is when you said about the safe space and then you went deeper and you found that safe space. Like, can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I, again, it's like when you're younger, you're chasing, or well, my experience when I was younger, I was chasing this dream job or this title or like, something to prove like, yep, I made it. Like I thought there was gonna be like a parade one day and be like, you did it, hooray. Um, but when I stopped chasing that and I was more like, okay, is this organization's values aligned with mine? Can I show up authentically, like professionally, but authentically in myself? Or am I having to change some of my morals to kind of like fit in, or my personality to kind of fit in? Once I stopped doing that, I just gradually met people, and either contract positions, full-time positions. I met the right people, and we would have conversations where it's like we are aligned on values, we are aligned on, what this job is, and then we could move forward. And once you're in, again, that's like a safe space. Once you're in that space, there's opportunities to grow and fail and keep going.
Mhm.
So it's just like everything kind of opens up when you're able to fail safely, um, and be mentored and be, pushed to do more. It just feels like the limit, it's limitless. It's like I've done this. I've tripped and fallen. I've failed a few times, but it's like as long as you're in a place where you can be yourself and people know that, you did your best. We're going to try again. What can we learn? Let's, this growth mindset. Like let's keep going so that you're not bogged down just by pretending to be someone else every day, or pretending to be this perfect employee. You get to let that go, and then the limits are just, think of all that energy, that negative energy that you're carrying around, and just being able to let that go. What are the possibilities when you're not holding all of that?
Yeah, there's a wonderful, also positive loop that creates because the more we are ourselves, the more also we are respected, you know. We find ourselves saying like, oh, well, I don't agree with such and such, but I respect how, honest they are or how in integrity with their values they are, right? There's a certain kind of respect that in general people have for people who are being themselves or who
Mhm.
are honest. And the flip side of that is that if you feel that somebody's being fake, that nobody likes that feeling, right? So
Right.
I just thought these are kind of like, I think things that sometimes we forget when we have a lot of pressure at work. And it takes that extra step to remember and have a little bit of courage. But the more we lean into, like as you said, your depth and your values, and that positive loop starts again, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for reminding us all of that because I forget too when I'm caught up in my things, right?
Yeah.
So, my God, so many things we talked about. So, let me ask you a little bit about, work and parenting because you
Mhm.
brought that up and we worked, and during this wonderful, wonderful time. So, what are some of, again, some of your biggest challenges and what tips do you have that you've learned for people who are finding themselves navigating parenting and a full-time career?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably the biggest challenge of being a parent and balancing work is the unpredictability of children, you know. I that was a steep learning curve for me when I became a bonus mom and had my stepson come into my life. It was like shocking how much thought and energy goes to thinking about them and what they need when they're at school. It's like when they're not even with you, you're thinking about, okay, did he pick up his lunch? I can't remember. Does he, he's gonna ride the bus home today, or is it, and so for me, those early stages, and again, it's like your ambition impacts family life. So if I stay up working on like a report all night and I'm crabby in the morning, like that doesn't feel fair, you know? Um, so I think that is one of the hardest things. And now bringing in a very young child, that is like, whoa, oh my gosh. And especially I don't know because it's not always talked about. I think it was so surprising to me in my postpartum journey. People say mom brain, things like that, but there is a significant impact on your mental capacity for me. Like, I couldn't remember certain names. I'm like trying to, it's sleep deprivation. It's, you know, uh, all of these things you're thinking about when you go back to work and you still have to function like nothing else is going on. So again, that's I've built I'm working with people who understand that and give me grace, which I think is the biggest thing, I have mentors and stuff that joke around about you'll never get those brain cells back. But it's like that was to me the most surprising thing. When I first went back to work, I would just the exhaustion of thinking about family and baby and working. It was like I almost couldn't speak at the end of the day when I first went back. Obviously, it gets better. But I do think that that is juggling that. And again, the unpredictability. So, my favorite advice about having a newborn and having a little baby is nothing ever lasts. So that's good or bad. So if they're sleeping through the night one week, doesn't mean they're going to sleep through the night the next week. And you just kind of roll with it. And you mentioned earlier the superpowers that sometimes come with being a parent. And for me, the patience that I have developed, I'm like, what is what is this superpower? Because you have to, it's not, you can't plan to not be thrown up on right before you're leaving the door for a meeting or something. It's like you can't plan when your children are sick. You can't plan when uh, they have doctor's appointments or do those, well, I guess doctor's appointments, but all of those sort of things, you kind of just have to have patience with life and like have the understanding that not everything's going to be perfect. I work in project management. I do a lot of program and project management. I love having things on time. I love having a timeline and knowing what my day is going to look like. But being a parent, you don't always know. So it's just the patience that you develop and the just understanding of like life happens, and we're at the end of the day, my goal is to spend as much time with my family as, a happy and healthy human being. So, the work stuff can usually wait.
You know what this makes me think of is sort of like an expansion, of
Mhm.
personality, of ways of being, right? Because especially if you're somebody that manages projects, is very organized, all that, and suddenly you have to deal, I mean, not suddenly, but
Mhm.
you have to deal in your life with unpredictability, and you find that, yes, you're big enough to
Mhm.
hold that too. I think what a wonderful thing, you know.
It again, yeah, I think that's been the theme of this conversation is the expansion. But wow, it's so true. When we start being honest with ourselves, uh, yeah, things just open up in a different way. Mhm.
Okay, what do I want to ask you next? Let me see. Let me see. All right. Okay. So, well, you have been growing your consulting practice. And so another, expansion and growth. And that is quite different than being an employee.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if you can, I know this, we can talk about that for, a million years, but just what are some of the things that hit you the most and that you felt like you have to work on the most or that helped you the most, as a business owner versus as an employee?
Yeah. I think there's some definite, obviously, skills that cross over both. But I think as a business owner, um, I'd say you have to trust your own judgment more often. You're representing yourself. You're putting yourself out there. And a lot of times, there are risks with that, that there aren't when you're a full-time employee. And so just being able to trust your own judgment, trust your gut, and and make sure that, again, it's like making sure that things are value aligned, making sure that the work that you're doing is something that you're passionate about. I think sometimes as small business owners, we can get into the weeds of needing certain amounts of revenue to come in or needing, these kind of things to come in. And, there's nothing wrong with that, but being able to navigate those situations so that you're still giving a really honest and positive work while you're doing, following your judgment and finding clients and finding work that represents your business in that way.
Mm. Um, so I'm curious if something for you is easier running your own business.
Easier. Oh, I I think there is, I don't know, for me, there's almost less stress not having someone above me, I have mentors and I have other business owners that we, will chat about certain things, but I think uh, I really enjoy being able to do what's right for me and the business, and I don't have to necessarily ask for permission, um, which I feel like there have been past positions where I want to do something, rooted in equity or rooted in um, activism, things like that. And you can't do that sometimes when you represent an organization other than yourself. And so that's easier for me. I get to be more mission aligned, more value aligned, and say no when it isn't, So I would say that's probably the easiest part of this.
Yeah, I think if you enjoy running your own business, usually, and I don't know if it's true for you, but this is a little bit of what I see, and it's definitely true for myself. Like, usually, you enjoy the freedom and you enjoy it enough that the responsibility is a trade-off you're willing to make.
Mhm.
Right? That's
Yeah.
that's a little bit of the thing. But I'm glad you brought up also the having somebody above you. Like, again, from my own experience, like, I sometimes get so concerned about what other people need or how to be aligned or whatever, that it's almost like then I lose myself a little bit. When
Mhm.
it's my own business, it's like, okay, I don't have to please anybody else.
Mhm.
Right, at that level, and so that can be easier. So I think that's something we I don't know how much, there's an understanding of that. I definitely did not understand that until I experienced it. In fact, I didn't
Yeah.
even know how to be without somebody telling me what to do. Did you find that as well?
Yeah, I mean, even before I started my business, I worked a lot with small businesses. I did a lot of professional development in like RFP writing and contracting with federal agencies and connecting small businesses with federal agencies. And I was always impressed by how passionate people are about their businesses. And, now that I'm in that place, I'm like, okay, it makes sense because there are there are so many things that you are responsible for, right? But again, it's you navigating those things. You don't have someone constantly giving you guidelines, and like working with small businesses before I started my own helped me understand. There's also so little resources out there for small businesses and understanding like this is the next step or this is what you do. That's why I'm really passionate about working with women and minority small businesses because there's so much freedom and like positive return that it's easy to stay as like in an organization as a full-time employee, an individual contributor, or maybe your manager because it's set for you. The navigation is set by the 5-year plan of that company or whatever the mission is. And then as business owners, you get to make that plan. And there's so much reward in that. So
Can you tell us a little bit more how you work with your clients?
yeah. Um, So I like to say that me and my team at Zibolsky Consulting are that extra pair of hands. We work with a lot of organizations who are maybe smaller, small but mighty. And if, anyone who's listening has ever worked in a nonprofit, you have a wall with 10 hat hooks, and it just depends on the day, the hour, the minute of which one you're wearing. And so our team comes in and here's what your goal is, here's what your issue is, and then we map out how we're going to get to that goal or how we're going to solve that issue from start to finish. And we offer you those extra pair of hands to do it. Um, I've been, the Zabolski Consulting has been around for 5 years, and before that, I was freelancing, and so I've worked with all sorts of organizations from arts organizations to government organizations, nonprofits, huge staff, small staff. And one thing that I see as a through line is um, they're always willing uh, to have that extra help, and not in a way that's like, oh, we need it. It's like a partnership, and I think that's a lot of who my clients are. They invite me in, and we get to become a team together, and I think that that's like really cool. I get to meet a lot of new folks and work with them and deliver services that at the end of the day impact the community. So I've been working with community action agencies over the last few years and specifically working on their community needs assessments. I think this is really interesting because I worked in nonprofit world. I worked for government agencies. I mentioned, federal contracting with small businesses and women minority owned businesses. And I didn't really know about community action agencies. So they are federally funded and they're required to do a community needs assessment every 3 to 5 years, basically capturing information from the community to help guide them down the next 3 to 5 years. And so um, I was like, I love that. I want to do that. Like I had been working with a mentor of mine and doing equity consulting and needs assessments. And when I started working on my own, I was like, oh, they're missing the equity piece. And in some cases, it's just because the bandwidth isn't there. It's not that they don't want to reach these community members. It's just, the bandwidth isn't there. And so our team helps support that. We come in and we make sure that the organization that we're working for and the boots on the ground folks who are doing the services are connecting. and hearing from each other. Because my goal is that whenever we deliver services, I want to leave and make sure that you can continue those relationships. It's not just coming in and making those connections and leaving. I want to make sure that there's a relationship there, that somebody knows, who to call, who to email when services are needed, or when a small nonprofit is needing funding to deliver what this agency is looking for. So that's a little bit, I know that's kind of convoluted, but at the end of the day, we're, an extra pair of hands trying to get you um, directly into the community and hearing from community.
That's fantastic. And I think there's something that is unique when you're an outsider. You bring in a different perspective to an organization, right? So there's really a play with that, what the internal team can do, and then a consultant can do because they're not part of the internal team, right? There's something
Yeah.
really wonderful in that partnership, like you said.
Yeah. And I I'm especially grateful to be invited to work with these communities. I work with a lot of marginalized communities as well. And I think, coming in as a third party is very helpful, especially when organizations are going through a change or growth. And always before I sign on with anyone, I say, you have to be ready to hear from people who don't like you. Like,
No.
I'm not gonna not report the bad stuff,
Yeah.
you know. And every person that I've worked with, every org that I've worked with, they're like, okay, bring it on. So in those situations, I think, yeah, a third party is really helpful because people feel like they can be honest. But then there are a lot of situations where um, you don't necessarily need the third party to do the speaking or the conversation. You already have community leaders who are doing that and gathering people. So how do we connect those people who are already doing the gathering and hearing from community members to the organization directly? So it's it's beautiful to see when it comes together. And yeah.
Yeah, and you're making a lot of difference. Thank you for all your work. Okay. All right. Oh, let's see what else. Well, anything else? I'm gonna start wrapping this up. Anything else that you would like to share before we wrap this up?
I highly recommend Repurpose Your Purpose.
Thank you.
At any point that you are at in your career, I think, Aurora, you've been so helpful I think about you all the time. You sent me a card and it has that stained glass hummingbird that hangs in my house. And I think about that. And I think it's a reminder of the growth and the things that we've done working together. Um, but it's just invaluable to have your expertise and your guidance throughout the years. And I can't wait to see what's next, what will bring us together again.
I can't wait to see. Um, well, thank you so much. If anybody's interested in learning more about what you do or work with you or explore working with you, how do they learn more or reach out to you?
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn at Chelsea Amable-Zibolsky, or you can send me a direct email at chelsea.zabolsky@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for sharing all your insights and your story and for being part of the podcast. And of course, for all, I feel very honored and grateful for everybody letting me in, for a little bit in their career to support them. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Anybody else, if you are, or everybody, if you are interested more in learning more about what I do, you can go to repurposeyourpurpose.com. Until the next episode.